Firewatch is a first-person adventure game developed by Campo Santo. It's essentially a walking simulator, so it'll be hard to talk about the game without any spoilers. So before we get into them, I'll give you my quick thoughts on the game. Firewatch was overall a game with great moment-to-moment experiences, but it falls annoyingly short with the overarching narrative, with one story being nearly nonsensical and the other basically never giving you a payoff. The gameplay is decent and makes you feel involved through the interactive barriers. The world you can inhabit can range from visually beautiful to legitimately barren and immersion breaking. A good example would be the lighting and the shadows, which look amazing. Yet at the same time, the texture quality and anything in the distance can look pretty awful. The game's technically open world, but you're always on a linear path and there's pretty much no reason to go around walking to anywhere that isn't the objective area. Overall, I don't regret buying this, and I wouldn't be surprised if I returned to this game in like 5 years, solely due to the positive emotions that I had with this game overall. Now that that's out of the way, let's take on our Firewatching post in Firewatch. The game starts off with a text adventure of all things. It tells you that you're Henry, that you found a wife, and that you have a dog. Oh, also, Alzheimer's hits her out of nowhere, and relationships get strained. I can immediately tell you that this is the most boring way to convey this information, slow text scroll speeds, unnecessary need to click glorified continue prompts mixed with 10-second long walking sections. So far, I'd say so weak. So reach your cabin and you meet the bug in your rear, Delilah. Other than the boring and unnecessary text segment, the beginning's really nice. Walking up to the lookout tower was interesting, and the cabin itself looks homely and cozy. It can always be hard to make a lived-in space, and Campo Santo certainly nailed it. So this is the official day 1, and I've already removed the covers from the windows, and I'm typing up an erotic fanfiction about Jeb Bush and JFK making love in a McDonald's drive-thru, when suddenly Delilah blueballs me to teach me to use something that I'll never use again in the game. Also, someone's shooting fireworks in the distance. I guess the game's called Firewatch. Yeah, better check this out. Walking outside feels solid, but definitely a bit disorienting. The map has an interactive "You are here" icon, but it doesn't show your direction, so you can still feel the need to look around with your compass. It's not bad once you get used to it, but it definitely took me around an hour to finally get comfortable with it. Doesn't help that the surrounding ground around the tower is a bit empty and unremarkable, so it might take a moment to figure out which way is which. I would have loved to see some distinguishing visuals, so you'd know which way you'd want to go after you've already explored every single possible direction. On our way we see trees, and a raccoon who's eating a candy bar. Honestly, I'd kill to be that little fella.
Pears! Yes!
We close in on the area and what is this, a campground? Also beer cans, just a lot of littering. This is uncalled for, so I put out their campfire, collect all their beer cans to sell as aluminium, steal whiskey, confiscate the fireworks, touch some underwear and a bra, and go in for the kill. It's two young, supposedly nude, shadow beings feeding off of the Wyoming wildlife. They get angry, morph into a boulder, and I steal their boombox. A fair trade, if I do say so myself. On my way back to the tower, I find a turtle who I named Turt Reynolds.
Turt Reynolds.
Well, now I can't wait to see him.
The mustache is impressive.
You tell him I love Cannonball Run.
Obviously. I violently take him from his habitat and keep moving back home with the boombox playing the same song into my oddly moist right ear canal. Wait, what the fuck is this? Yeah, this doesn't seem like a fucking lens flare. Turns out there's another shadow creature, but this one fancies themselves to be a wannabe spy. Look, let's be honest, it's only a coincidence I saw him anyway. Had I blinked for like 20 seconds, I might not have even noticed the light. I think it's a bit more than obvious that the game wants to tell us that this isn't going to just be me and Delilah shooting the shit over the next couple of months.
So this generator is all the power I've got out here.
Yep, it doesn't go through much gas, and, well, you don't have much in the way of electronics, so...
What about my hairdryer?
Oh, I'm sorry. You might just have to make peace with frizzy locks.
I could never.
What can I do for you?
Well, my typewriter is on the ground, outside of my tower.
You right?
Yeah, look, the wind? No. How the hell?
You should get inside.
Fuck me.
We get back to the tower and turns out someone's broken in. Yeah, I wonder who that could be. Though the game actually does think that it's a huge mystery and allows you to choose who you'll accuse of doing this. Really? Yeah, Henry, who could it be? The nude shadow chicks who left you behind, who were in the middle of a small island, or the weird creep who literally shined a flashlight in your face and ran directly towards your cabin. Could be anyone's guess. Day 2 rolls around and... Wait, is this only day 2? We've done a hell of a lot in that time. Anyways, turns out our only line of communication to the outside world's been cut off. Yay. So our task is to move north and find where the wire's broken. While Henry and Delilah spent the trip talking about each other, let's quickly divert ourselves to the visuals. The game's pretty good looking. It uses a very cartoony art style and I think it really fits it. But it also falls into the trap that Borderlands did, where the art style gets all the attention and the actual visual quality suffers immensely. So while everything's pretty colorful, you'll often see textures that are unnaturally smooth and one-toned, or anything in distance that just looks terrible. The game's cliffs are extremely smooth and barren, but this is made up by the lighting and the dynamic shadows. You'll notice the shadows often since you're seeing the sun rise or set, and you'll often see the lighting effects coming from the tree branches. It's downright beautiful sometimes, and I couldn't resist the urge to take a couple of screenshots over the course of the game. Anyways, back to the game. It seems that someone has cut the wires. Our villains committed the perfect crime. Well, almost. A small mistake was made. A literal trail of beer cans was left by them that leads you towards the culprits. Yeah, really, again, it could be anyone. On our way, we spot a chain link fence, which Delilah knows nothing about for some reason. You know, it's not like her entire thing is just keeping an eye on everything. Whatever, it's obviously there to keep people out of a dangerous area. We trek across the entire game map diagonally and reach another campground. Seems that it's the two boulder morphing teens.
I have entered the teen zone.
Oh, really? And where's that?
It's the name of a magazine for girls. It's on the ground here at their camp. Huh, pants are back.
I'm sorry, pants are back?
Well, according to the experts at Teen Zone magazine. It's unclear where they've been. The pants, I mean?
After some light reading of teen magazines, we walk up to the tent and see that there's been a bit of a technical issue with it. Seems that the stitching's come undone or something. Could have happened to anyone. We find a note about some psychopath creeping on them by the lake and now terrorizing them by their tent as well. Again, could be anyone. Do I have to repeat this? Could be anyone. Takes one hell of a weirdo to spy on two young women skinny dipping and doing a transfiguration spell that even Professor Minerva McGonagall would have been proud of. Day 3, and we're finally nailing up the broken window. Honestly, this is probably the most annoying gameplay of the game. You try and find random planks around your tower. That's all there is. But obviously there's grass, so things start blending in. After a long detour, I finally find the last boards. I nail them all in, and we finally commit ourselves to the daily grind of being a Firewatcher. Day 9, we're eating a sandwich when Delilah says that the two girls have gone missing. Henry guesses that they probably are cosplaying as pinecones or loose rubble, so they agree to keep their involvement quiet in it. Day 15, I guess night 15? Yeah, anyways, we wake up and talk to Julia, the hottie from the Alzheimer's ward. How and why? Whatever, who cares? She's got a great accent and that's enough for me to become delusional in a single night.
Hey, you big dumb idiot.
Day 33 sees us retrieving supplies from a crate at the northmost edge of the map. Delilah talks about herself, so let's use that moment to address another part of the game. The dialogue between Henry and Delilah is pretty much top-notch. They both sound believable, and their interactions manage to even get a couple of chuckles out of me. That's quite impressive, considering that this probably happens at best once a year for me. They both feel like real people, and they also manage to keep up their tensions by leaving you always questioning everything. Whether Delilah is truthful, whether she has vices, whether she actually is a total asshole, or whether she's actually a catfish using a voice changer to get nude from you. All of these things are equally possible. We reach the supplies and we get a random moral choice. There are 3 lookout points. You are one of them. You basically have the choice of which box or which boxes you pick up. I honestly have no clue how this even matters, since I only took my stuff and it was literally never mentioned again. Day 64 and... oh fuck, it's a fire! Of all the things I expected from Firewatch, a fire wasn't one of them. Regardless, you're just on a Firewatch, so you've already succeeded in your mission. You saw the fire. Good one. The game can end now. Day 76, let's go fishing. Back to the lake, I guess. Delilah mentions a problem bear that we should keep an eye out for. We reach the lake and we see a clipboard. The clipboard has our previous conversations and our routes too. The plot thickens. We hear a noise and when investigating we find another radio. Seems that someone's been listening in on us. Waking up, all the proof's been stolen. Convenient, but we do have a clue. Wapiti Station. So we get moving, and once we reach there, we see the ominous fence once again.
Pretty low, I'd imagine.
Yeah, no way in there. Gotta get the tools from the firemen on the other side of the map. After an unnecessary long walk, we reach the Ruby River area. We get an axe that was left behind by one of the firemen, all of whom have obviously walked off for some random reason. Right, back to Wapiti Meadow then. On the way, the duo gets paranoid after finally realizing their radio transmissions are compromised. Delilah tells Henry to go back to the tower instead and to shut himself in for a while. Day 77 and Delilah uses some spy shit to lead us to a supply cache, where we find a new radio.
By the way, I was wondering if your Flora of the Shoshone info poster was still up inside your tower?
What?
It's just protocol that those stay up. You know, info about your tower, the surrounding tree species, etc.
Alright.
Just, you know, have a look at it. Make sure it's in ship shape.
Okay, yeah, it's up. Why are you acting like this?
Great. Just wonderful. Do you see the tree in the top row, second from the left?
Now that the communications are safe, they can finally try and figure out what's happening. Henry has a quick existential crisis and we move to Wapiti Station. We break the lock and, oh boy, surveillance equipment, soil sampling, weird devices, odd reports.
God, what do you see?
This place has everything. At this point I have to admit I wasn't really buying that there was a huge conspiracy. The devices looked pretty odd, but if they really wanted to survey Henry and Delilah, then why would they just take soil samples and have other random equipment? I felt like there was something else here, where basically our habits were monitored just to make sure that we never got here, or something like that. We get out of there and... what the shit, the entire station's on fire all of a sudden. What? Later in the same day, we get a hit with a wave transmitter we picked up. We follow the signal and make it to the source, a supply bag with a key to a cave.
Shit! What? Ah!
Perhaps a mystery benefactor who's sympathetic to our cause. Delilah's drunk as hell and sees you in the tower, but we're not there yet. We rush to the tower and see a Walkman taped to the door. The tape has a badly edited conversation which implies that Henry and Delilah started the Wapiti fire. Anyways, day 78 sees us go on a fun spelunking trip. We reach the cave, unlock the door, go in and have it closed behind us. Obviously we find a new way out, and like any sane adult, we literally just circle around and go in the cave once again. This time with equipment to descend further into the cave. In the cave we find the body of 12-year-old Brian Goodwin, the son of Ned Goodwin, who used to reside in the same station which you now occupy. Delilah knew Brian, who actually wasn't even supposed to be bringing kids there since that wasn't allowed. But like the sexually liberated aunt who openly talks to you about masturbation, Delilah decided to say fuck the rules and cover for Ned, and therefore allow them both to be there. She feels guilty over the entire thing while Henry goes back home. Turns out this is the last day they'll be there. Tomorrow's time to leave. Day 79, and it's time to get the hell out of here. We're packing up our stuff when suddenly we get a wave transmitter signal. Following it, we stumble upon another setup by Ned, who basically explains it all.
Yeah, hi Henry. Hey, you better find this before it burns up. We've been causing each other a lot of headaches. Now I gotta go stake out a site that's as fit for living as the one you're about to find. You'll get it when you see it. You can't blame me for keeping an eye on you. Not after bumping into you back in May. Down by the cave, for croc's sake. I've been up here for 3 years. I kept it cozy. Winters are harsh as hell, and I ran out of books. But I got that antenna rigged up, and Delilah, she's a record you don't gotta flip. I kinda get why Brian took to her. About a week ago I stopped worrying about you finding anything out, and that's right when everything went shithouse with you two. You guys don't know anything about having kids. Alright, nobody knows nothing. It ain't Andy and Opie walking down a lake to fish every afternoon. It ain't Mayberry. But you gotta know I didn't kill him. Alright, we were climbing. I was teaching him. Brian was uneducated in the way to do anything. He just fucking didn't sink his anchor the right way. You know, I thought about going back, having to answer questions, and having to get him put in the ground, and I didn't see the point. Don't come looking for me. Sorry about your wife.
So, Ned was teaching his kid how to rock climb and he fell. And instead of dealing with it, he decided to become a hermit and just stalk people randomly. The shit? Okay, fuck it, let's just ignore it for now. We check out Ned's man cave and bugger off to the evac point. Delilah for some reason leaves first and leaves you to deal with your own stuff. You get on the last helicopter out and the game's done. So let's address some issues with the story here. Ned says that he thought of going back and getting his son's body and acting like a normal fucking human being, but he quote, didn't see the point? The fuck's that supposed to mean? So instead he lurks around the campsites, perving on teens, building surveillance equipment, and building World War I era bunkers? Am I the only one who thinks this is total nonsense? So much is also left unanswered, like whether Delilah lied about the boyfriend or not, and why she acted so suspicious every once in a while. Regardless, I personally liked Firewatch a lot. It's visually compelling, and the dialogue between Henry and Delilah is endearing and entertaining, and the gameplay is interactive enough to not become stale in the 4 hours I played it. The game did have random lag spikes for me, and I was running the game on max settings at 1080p, with average frame rates being around 75 FPS. I spent €5 on this, and it definitely deserves that much in my opinion. Thank you so much for listening or watching through the whole thing. It's my first proper longer form video and I hope it turned out well. The video editing is pretty bad, but that's because I'm just afraid of new software and I think it's easier to hide from your worries than to face them head on like a normal functioning adult. If you have any ideas on how I can improve or anything else you want to talk about, leave it in the comments. Feel free to subscribe as well. I can't guarantee I'll make more of these and how regularly, but this has been a fun experience so far and I'm hoping that I continue to do this. Thanks for watching.